Deep witnessing, shared transformation, and the kind of healing that happens when stories are heard. Welcome to Rabbit Hole Reflections, the podcast where raw stories meet real empowerment. This is a sacred space where guests shared their lived, unfiltered journeys through the rabbit hole, the descent, the truth, and the rise that follows. Every episode holds space for the moments we usually hide and explores the unraveling, the reckoning, and the becoming that reshaped them along the way. Healing doesn't always look good, but it will always change you. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and you're listening to Rabbit Hole Reflections. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us here at Rabbit Hole Reflections. I am your host and curator, Lisa Van Slyke. Today almost didn't happen. I went on a mini road trip with my two elderly parents. We traveled from Texas to Michigan last week. And when we arrived, I ended up in the hospital Friday morning with what would now be known as a kidney stone. I was in an area that did not have very good reception. I was not able to sit down and actually do the editing that I normally do for my guests to honor them for being a part of the show. So I said, I'm going to get to it when I get home. Well, it is Thursday, almost time for the episode to air, and I still do not have a quality production for the guest who was scheduled to be on this week. So she'll be coming on in a couple of episodes from now. I have had a lot of time to process some things that I have been going through. And this kidney stone was actually a wake-up call for the lack of processing that I thought that I was doing. Today's episode is going to be a conversation about trauma, unresolved emotions, how when we hold them in the body, it manifests into physical things. Our body is trying to tell us, hey, this is your wake-up call. You're not processing something, and this is the result. We need you to start to look for what it is you might not be processing. You might just be shoving it down, thinking that you might be healing it. Today's episode almost didn't happen for another reason. I always have a guest. This is the first time I've actually gone solo. I usually have a guest, conversation, hear their input, ask questions. I was trying to do everything in my power to avoid getting on camera and having this conversation with you all. Part of that was, oh, that means I'm going to have to do my hair. I'm going to have to do my makeup. I'm going to have to wear a bra. What outfit am I going to wear? Am I going to look okay? I just want to take a bath. I've got to take care of my elderly parents. We need groceries. I need to clean the house, the laundry. The list goes on and on. I was procrastinating just getting on camera. And I said, you know what? No, I need to sit down and I need to do this. I need to just have a conversation. It doesn't have to be perfect. When have I ever put on makeup or fixed my hair for one of my episodes? I am not a vlogger. This is a secondary aspect to my podcast. My passion is in the audio, listening to the story while you're driving, while you're doing dishes, laundry. That's really where my passion lies. But lately, I've come to love the video process of this. Stories heal. They heal us a little bit when we can air that out. And they help others heal when we share our journeys, when we share what experiences we have, maybe some nuggets of wisdom. We let people know they're not alone, and it helps them heal. And it's that ripple effect that then goes out to the world. And we have this joy, this kindness, this empathy, this compassion. And it really helps to heal the world. I honor my guests and their presence here with me in this sacred space to share their transitions, their journeys through their rabbit hole, and the healing that we are trying to bring to the world. I am learning to love video a lot more because storytelling is foundational to our species. At one time, we had visual, we had the dance, we had the music, we had the bonfires, we had the community coming together to listen about the warriors, the sacrifice, the triumphs, the tribulations, the spirits. So I'm really coming back to video to honor our ancestors in the way that they told stories. Stories are making a comeback. Storytelling is making a comeback. One of the reasons why I was like, oh, I can't get on camera, I was really trying to stay in a safe space. And I said, you know what? It's the story that matters. It's the story, it's getting out there, sharing a little bit of vulnerability, sharing something that you have experienced, maybe walking somebody through a process or giving them resources and just letting people know that they're not alone. So here I am about to tell y'all about my kidney stone situation. Friday morning, about 3 o'clock, I woke up and I was just really uncomfortable. I said, I've been driving, I've been in the car for 2 days, not a lot of movement. I thought I might have a UTI. As the morning progressed, the discomfort actually started turning into pain. And I was like, oh, wow, my bladder feels really full. I'm going to try to use the bathroom, release my bladder. Nothing happened. I was like, okay, this must be a UTI. And shortly after, my left flank started to hurt. I said, well, I'm sleeping on an air mattress. I've been in a car for 2 days. I have back problems already from my time in the military. So I didn't really think a whole lot of it. Then about 30 minutes later, about 4 o'clock in the morning, after trying to go back to sleep, trying to use the bathroom, trying to get comfortable, I sat up and I was like, this is not normal. So I decided to call one of those triage nurse lines. I was on the phone with her. I said, I have a UTI. I just want to get some antibiotics and I might need somebody to drain my bladder because I'm unable to use the restroom and my bladder feels like it's about to explode. And I'm starting to feel some pain in my left side. When I was on the phone with her, I was about a 3 and it progressively got worse. It was not a very long conversation. She authorized me to go to the local hospital because I was out of my network. I started to get a little fearful because my bladder felt like it was just growing and growing and like it was about to pop. My niece is getting married tomorrow. I cannot miss this wedding. I don't need to be in the hospital for the next week. Something's got to give. We've got to figure this out. As I was driving, and it was only a 10-minute drive with stoplights, if that, I started to cry because the pain became unbearable. And she asked what my pain level was, and I was sobbing. I said, I'm a 7. I'm just a 7. It's a 7. And she said, ma'am, I think you're higher than that. I said, no, I have a high pain tolerance. I promise you, I'm just a 7. It hurts so bad. I just need somebody to drain my bladder. So I get to the hospital. I walk in, and I said, I have a UTI. It hurt to breathe. I couldn't stand. I couldn't sit. They finally got me to the back. They did an ultrasound on my bladder. I absolutely had no urine in my bladder, even though my bladder felt like it was about to pop. It was the most excruciating pain that I have ever been in my entire life. And I've given birth to 2 children without drugs, vaginally. I have chronic pain in my back from my time in the military. So I'm just kind of used to pain. They finally found out that I had a kidney stone. They wanted to do a procedure because the kidney stone was large enough to go in and actually break it up with a procedure. And I said, well, my niece is getting married tomorrow. What is this procedure? And can I get to the wedding after you're finished? And the doc was like, oh, no, I don't think that's going to happen. He said, the other option is that we can give you medicine that they use when men have swollen prostates. It helps to relax the smooth muscles. So the tube that goes from the kidney to the bladder, the ureter, will relax so that the stone can just kind of glide down and it'll dilate to help with the passing of that stone. Now, this kidney stone was about to drop into my bladder at any moment. It was had already traveled that far down. I said, let's try the meds. Let's do the meds because I have to go back to Texas on Sunday. And this doc was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. It is okay. I will be fine. I'll just follow up with the doc when I get back to Texas. I don't have time for a procedure right now. Let's just do the next best thing. So they released me and I drove myself back home. They gave me some pain meds and this pill that was supposed to help with the dilation to help pass the kidney stone. I still don't know if I've passed the kidney stone. I feel like I've not been on any kind of meds for several days. and I feel fine. When I was reaching out to my tribe, to my community, one of them sent something back and said, "This is just for laughs, but kidney stones are caused by unprocessed emotions." And more importantly, it's anger. I was like, well, I don't have anything to be angry about. I don't know that I'm angry at anything. So that's where this episode comes in. Because as I started to think about it, I said, you know what? I am kind of angry. There are several things that I'm angry about. I've noticed my jaw is a lot tenser towards the back, clenching down my teeth. I noticed that I don't feel as bubbly as I normally do. I don't feel as smiley as I normally do. I feel like my face doesn't project peace the way that it normally would. And for me, I just accepted it as this is part of my healing process, not the kidney stone healing, but some emotional stuff that I'm going through. And this is part of that healing of reshaping and reframing what it is that I'm sitting in right now. But as I started to think about it, I reflected back on some guests that we've had. Olivia was a wonderful guest who expressed her story with holding unresolved trauma and those emotions with that led her to be bedridden at the age of 16, and how yoga helped transform her. Linda Carmouche, she talked about how we polish our pain. We still carry it. We don't actually do anything with it. We just make it shiny. For her, didn't necessarily lead to physical manifestation as far as like an illness or an injury, but it did lead to a breakdown for her and led to her establishing boundaries around her needs and her want, and she sticks to those boundaries. It reminded me of our guest coming up, Carrie, who also had a lot of pain that she has healed through energy work, and it was because of unresolved trauma from childhood. For years, she carried it for 30 years and finally was able to process that trauma, and some of those illnesses left her body because her body was no longer stuck holding all of that negative energy. So as I was reminded of all of these, I said, you know what? I am actually holding on to some anger. I am actually holding on to some unresolved things. I am a caregiver to both of my elderly parents. I have gone through losing my best friend about a little over a month ago. I am still a parent to two adults trying to navigate their way through this life. And I didn't realize how much fear and anger that I was polishing. And here I am. I have this podcast, Rabbit Hole Reflections. We talk about healing. We talk about processing all of this. I have another podcast that I do, Sunday Talks with Kelly and Lisa. She and I talk about this stuff all the time. I didn't realize that in my trying to reframe and have a different perspective on the situations that I've been in, that I was actually just pushing some of that stuff away. I wasn't sitting with it the way I should be sitting with it. You cannot force everything into the positive side because we have these other emotions that do come along with it. So I was playing ostrich. I am sitting here thinking, I am healed. I know how to process my trauma. I know how to work through all of this. So I'm just going to keep moving forward and keep moving forward. And it's going to resolve and everything is going to be okay. I'll get to that stage of grief, if you will. That is the acceptance and the indifference. I was thinking that maybe I was actually at the indifferent stage, that it was like, it is and it isn't, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for me. So as I started to reflect on the kidney stone, it allowed me to reflect on some things that I have been angry about, and I'm going to share those with you. A month ago, a relationship that was very dear to me ended. First of all, I lost a very furry best friend. I was so upset about that. But this person was and is still very important to me. And I couldn't understand why we couldn't be friends. Why is it that we had to just completely walk away. Society has this black and white. If you're in a relationship, you're not friends with the opposite sex and or gender, and you're supposed to stay in your bubble because we're following the societal expectation. That doesn't mean we actually have to follow them. So I was getting mad at women in his life who haven't even come into existence yet. I was getting mad at the woman that he was going to find to spend the rest of his life with, because we are not life partners in the sense that we're going to be in a communal relationship, sharing bills and growing old and sitting on the porch together, but we are going to be in each other's lives as friends. Or so I thought would be nice. And so I was getting mad at all of these dates, not at the fact that he was going on these dates, because I absolutely want him to be 100% happy, whatever that is for him. And I know that there are certain things that we both see for ourselves in the future and we can't bridge them. So I'm mad at a woman he hasn't even met yet. How does that make sense? Please make that make sense. Because in my head, and here's that reptilian brain, the putting ourselves in this protected space, here I am mad at a woman that doesn't even exist in the present. She's somewhere in the future. I was like, she's not going to like me. I'm going to be nudged out anyway. I was processing the pain of the sadness, but I didn't ever allow myself to sit in the anger. You know what, though? It's not my life. It's not my path. We're not on that journey together. So it's okay. But that doesn't mean that there weren't other things that came up. I am now processing that anger. Somehow I will get through it, because I don't like anger. I don't want to hold on to this. And I sure don't want it manifesting physical stuff in my body. I have too much to do on a daily basis. And I have too much that I need to bring to this world to let this actually sit here and manifest in some physical form that's going to slow me down or even stop me from being able to do what I've been put on this planet to do. That hurts me more than any physical pain can. I do know that now that I can say I'm angry, because I didn't even talk about that aspect with my friends, but now that I can say I'm angry, I'm like, well, that's kind of silly. Am I really angry? Why am I angry at a person who doesn't exist yet? Why am I angry at him? Why am I angry at myself? Now I can peel it away a little bit more. You've got to peel it apart and try and fix it. And that's okay, because that's the other thing that I have to process through. I like anger for what it teaches me. I don't like to feel the anger. Let me clarify that a little bit. I like what anger is teaching me. I don't like to be angry, and I don't like to project my anger upon someone. So that's one thing that I hadn't really been processing. My parents. My mom moved in with me accidentally. She did this in February of 2020. Well, we all know what happened March of 2020. The world shut down. And so I couldn't get her anywhere. In November of 2023, my sister, her husband, and my dad, who was living with my sister at the time, came to visit. My dad never left. He ended up moving in with me as well. I hadn't talked to the man in like 10 years. We just didn't have a close relationship. We weren't talking to each other on a regular basis. There may have been a holiday where we saw each other if we were all able to get together. It just wasn't a priority. And I went a lot of my life with him in and out. This was our situation. And he was doing the best he could with what he had at the time. So I understand that. Being a caregiver of two elderly aging parents, you have to schedule doctor's appointments. You have to make sure they're taking their medicine because they're not going to remember. You need to make sure they're eating because they just want to go and grab a spoon of peanut butter and call it a day. You need to get them to the places, order the groceries, do the laundry, make sure they take showers. There's all of these things, but they're grown children. They're adults, and they've done their thing for their entire life. And now a lot of that freedom has been taken from them. They have physical ailments or memory ailments. I sure as hell don't want either one of them behind the wheel of a car. So with that, they're also going through these changes and these challenges. And it creates this one big challenge for all three of us. My parents were not living together. My dad had a job in a different state. My mom stayed in South Carolina. And so they weren't together a lot. So now you're throwing both of them into my apartment where they sit on the couch most of the day until I make them get up and exercise or we go out and do something fun. And that's a big adjustment. So there's a lot of energy in this house that's like, why? Why? That inner child comes back up. Why? Why can't I get in my car and drive? Why can't I eat whenever I want? Why can't I eat whatever I want? Why do I have to take a shower? Who do you think you are telling me what to do? And here I am with my inner child going, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this. So apparently I had a lot of anger with that. My body forced me to face it. My body forced me to say, hey, process this shit. Because if you don't, it's going to come through in something worse than a kidney stone. When we repress emotions, you can feel it, right? I mentioned to you my jaw, clenching my teeth. I don't feel as bright and cheery in my face. I feel like I'm carrying RBF in ways that I don't want to carry. I don't have a complete sense of joy or of happiness or of peace. And if you feel like that, check your emotions. Sit down and actually say, what are the situations I'm going through right now? Is it something that I'm going through right now that is causing me to carry myself a certain way or to be angry when I don't want to be? And am I lashing out at people when I shouldn't? If it's not that, go back a little further, go a little deeper. If it is something in your present, maybe you're acting that way because of something from your past that hasn't been resolved. Carrie, my guest next week, she talks about that. Kelly Fitzgerald, my very first guest, died and came back. What is it that you might be carrying? What are these emotions that you might be repressing? We are light beings. We are energy. We're all energy. And that means the stuff that doesn't serve us that great either. So I ask you, what emotions are you repressing? What is it that you might need to work through? Take a look at my other episodes. Find a guest, connect to somebody, whether they share a similar story or listen to somebody who doesn't share a similar story, because there's nuggets of wisdom in all of our episodes. And even though it might not mirror what you're going through, there might be something that you can hear or take away from that episode to help you in your healing journey. So again, I ask, what are some things that you might be repressing? How is it that you can work through them to help you on your path to being whole, to coming back home to your body, and to experience the joy and happiness that we are supposed to experience? It's our birthright to be happy. You can always reach out to me. I love emails, rabbitholereflectionspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, I will answer them. You can always find me on Facebook at my Rabbit Hole Reflections Facebook page. You can message me through that. You can find me at the Lisa V on Facebook and Instagram. You can always reach out to me there. I love comments. I love questions, and I love feedback. I'm also on YouTube. You can always reach out to me on YouTube as well. And reach out to my guests. That's why they're here. They're here to share their story. They're here to share their transformation through that rabbit hole, through their healing process. And some of them actually do life work to help others heal as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. I really am honored that you are here. And thank you again for joining us here at Rabbit Hole Reflections. I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us on another journey down the rabbit hole. We all face our own descent. It's not the falling that defines us. It's how we rise and what we carry back. If this episode spoke to you, share it. And if you haven't already, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. You can connect with the Rabbit Hole Reflections community on Instagram and Facebook at Rabbit Hole Reflections, and catch full episodes on YouTube at Rabbit Hole Reflections Podcast. If you're ready to share your own voice with the world, check out my podcast workshop linked below. I'll walk you through launching your own show, even if you're not techie. And stay tuned, my book Quieted Flames and Silent Sparks is coming soon. It's the story behind the stories, and I can't wait to share it with you. Until next time, keep rising, keep reckoning, keep remembering who you are. I'm Lisa Van Slyke, and this has been Rabbit Hole Reflections.